Top 5 today, ratings agency Standard & Poor's has cut the credit rating of Cyprus amid the country's worsening financial crisis. The agency has downgraded Cyprus by 2 notches to CCC+. It says the downgrade is due to the island nation's rising and considerable risk of a sovereign debt default. S&P also put Cyprus further into junk territory and issued a negative outlook for it. The downgrade came after the International Monetary Fund announced that bailout talks with Cyprus are not expected to wrap up this year. The country's GDP looks set to shrink about 2.5% in 2012. Meanwhile, in Italy, people take to the streets in the capital, Rome, to voice anger over new cuts in the healthcare budget.
It's important for the people who will be forfeiting their medical treatment. Many services have already been cut. We have an excellent hospital and they want to shut it down. Why? For whose benefit?
Thousands of protesters staged a demonstration outside Italy's Treasury Ministry. It came after the country's Senate approved a budget bill for 2013. The bill was part of Prime Minister Mario Monti's new package of austerity programs to save the Italian economy from bankruptcy. Once the cuts are in place, the people of Rome will see over $1 billion slashed from their medical treatment services. The capital city's public healthcare sector is already suffering from a $13 billion deficit. The figure is expected to surpass $20 billion by the end of 2013. Robert Oulds is an economic expert with me now via Skype from London to share his thoughts with us. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Oulds. We'll start first with the Cyprus story. The Standard & Poor's downgrading the country's credit rating to now CCC+. First of all, tell us what that means in terms of a possible debt default, as well as it says it's now in junk territory.
Well, yes, the debts in Cyprus are enormous. The problems with the Eurozone have now caught up with the island nation of Cyprus, and really it's in need of a bailout, which would be nearly approaching its total economic output for 1 year. The debts are that severe, but of course it has been unable to reach an agreement with those it owes money to, the financial institutions that have lent it money, which it now cannot afford to repay, but it still hasn't, as a result, hasn't reached this agreement. The debts will continue to grow and the economy will continue to suffer. So what it means is that the debts will continue to grow in Cyprus, and of course they just can't afford to pay back the money, and the economic outlook will continue to be very dark for Cyprus.
Right, and the way, of course, the governments are tackling this issue when it comes to Italy now, we've got cuts in the healthcare budget. The protesters who've come out, how do you think this problem can be resolved if the government is not to bring about these austerity cuts, for instance, here in the healthcare budget, in the other services that the people see for themselves as vital?
Yeah, well, the policy of the European Union, driven by Brussels and the European Central Bank, when it comes to countries like Italy and also other nations like Spain and Greece, their policy is to support the euro. Instead of allowing for a currency devaluation to have countries managing their own economies again, the European Union has forced austerity on those nations. It's meant that there's been budget cuts, such as in areas even health and pensions, also education. And also there's been a distinct strategy of actually trying to drive down wages to try and reintroduce competitiveness by reducing people's pay in the public sector, and it's also had an impact on the private sector. But all that's done is, of course, meant there's less money to spend in the economy, less consumption, growing unemployment to very alarming levels, and just more economic problems, and it's turned a recession into a depression. So the European Union's economic policies have lowered wages and just put people into poverty and made people unemployed, and cut back essential services, which leading many people to become deeply alarmed in those nations about their country's future.
Thank you very much, Robert Oulds, economic expert, with us there via Skype from London.